Well, g'day, I'm Colin Dangaard, and of course you're on the Colin Dangaard show. Here's a bareback saddle I'm building here. And a gift has arrived, a treasure. Look at this. Wow, what is this? This is gonna, oh wow. Look at that. Magic Mind, it's called, Magic Mind. And so I'm gonna take a swig of this. I wonder if I take it all or do more.
Yeah, take it all.
So I'm going to take it all. So this is the first time I've tried this, and so I'm going to be very anxious to see the results. So let's have a go here. Cheers, mate. I got to say, that goes down very easy. I like it. Tell you how I feel in a few minutes, a few hours, maybe tonight, especially in the night.
I love that. Good. Good. Amazing. Lovely.
He's a triple crack. What's this one?
Triple crack.
That's called a Sydney crack.
Lovely.
Let's talk about these saddles. Huh?
Let's go.
G'day, I'm Colin Dangaard, and these are a couple of my saddles. And what's more, he's the people who make them. Thank goodness.
Hi.
And this is Asim Ashraf. They come from a family of saddle makers in Kanpur, India, that I have trained for about 40 years when I first brought the Australian stock saddle to America. Their father built me the first Australian stock saddle that was a remake of a saddle by Said Hill and Sons, and that became the beginning of what is now a big industry. In America you have Western saddles and English saddles and Australian saddles. Before their family came here, there was only Western and English. I changed that with their help. I built a saddle when I was 14 years old and was forever fascinated with Australian saddles and how they work on horses, because they work great. First of all, they're hard to fall out of. You got these puppies to keep you in. In Australia, we don't ride too well. You know, I fall over the place. You know what I mean? But that makes all the difference. And one of the things we did differently, we put a horn on Australian saddles. That didn't exist before.
Yeah.
But your dad said, "Yep, if Colin wants a horn, we're going to put one on." And I said, "Yep, we need a horn on it because many Americans can't see a saddle without a horn." Of course, that has now changed. They accept the saddles with a horn or without, but the Australian saddle made a big impact on that. So it's amazing. Your dad was, I believe, didn't have a factory in the beginning. He just made them wherever he could. When I first met him so long ago.
Yeah.
And I says, this is a great saddle, we're gonna make it better and better and better. And by goodness, if he didn't make it better and better and better. And today, it beats anything made in Australia. Because it's hard to believe. Australians have actually lost the skill of making their national saddle. There are a few old guys out around the place who can still work on wood and steel, which is the ultimate way to build a stock saddle, because it can be adjusted to make it a wide horse or a narrow horse. You can't do that with a solid tree. But that's what changed America, was this saddle, because now I represent 80% of the people who ride in those mountains over there. Well, show us these mountains I drop off. Those mountains over there where I ride every day, and there are very severe cliffs there. I gallop down them and up them. I would attempt it on an English saddle, but why? Yes, why? I like to be safe and I like to push the limits of what you can do. I love danger. What's the point of life without danger? There's no point in it.
Oh, yeah.
What are you going to do? Sit around? You're going to have danger.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a bit of danger. And the horse is the last thing left where we can actually exhibit and enjoy danger. You can't get in your car and scream down the road and be
Absolutely.
dangerous and scare yourself to death, can you? First of all, you get all kind of tickets and that's very expensive. I can get up on that mountain, the steepest part of it, and say, okay, we are going down there, whoom. And it's perfectly legal. There's nobody out there to say, hey, you can't do that. I've never seen anybody out there. You couldn't walk where I ride. And that's the same with many places in America today. There are still lots of wilderness out there, still lots of places you can ride. And the horse still has a magical entry to all of these places. Somehow they say, well, horse is okay, but you take something in with an engine and a motor and tires and roaring exhaust, well, that's not okay. But a horse is okay because a horse belongs in the wilderness. And but I like to do it safely. I'm pushing 82 and I've been riding like a crazy person all of my life since I was about 5. And yeah, I've taken a few hits, which is probably makes me not as smart as I used to be. However, I am wise enough to know I'm not as smart as I used to be,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm still as bold as I used to be.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And that's the key. But with this saddle, it's the world's biggest cheetah. You can take all the risk in the world you want. Increase speed, that's what I say. And go screaming down any hill or ride as hard as you want. And the horses love it. They love to be extended. They don't want to be trotting around little arenas and, you know, I mean, that's another sport, isn't it? I just don't see the point of it. Now, I like jumping. I've steeplechased for years and years, and that's a big thrill, taking jumps at the flat gallop. Now, the Australian saddle is not really good for that purpose. However, it's very good for training jumpers to get them used to it because you can push them hard and the chances of you falling are a lot less. They can crash, and I've taken many crashes in the saddle and just ridden through the crash, as we do in the bush in Australia. You ride through the crash. Horse eventually stops and you step off and you say, that was interesting, wasn't it? Oh, he went down, did he? Oh, well, what a shame. Let's do it again.
All right.
So, this is Ashraf and his nephew Asim, and they are extraordinary saddle riders.
Oh, thanks.
And I thank you for, and your family, for providing me with your great skill and dedication.
We thank you for providing us, giving us a chance
Yeah, and sharing
to be a
this
part of you.
Yeah, well, you're a big part of it. It's really wonderful, because without you, I couldn't produce such beautiful saddles, and we've improved things enormously as we've gone through the years.
Yeah.
This is American leather, prime American leather. The tree is steel and aluminum, and built by Ashraf and Asim, and it's to specifications. The gullet is lined with steel, so I can bend it. I'll bring it to you back and I'll just show you. Hold on.
Then maybe go into like some of the process behind
Oh, yeah.
what it takes to make one, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like when Colin orders one,
Yep.
when he sends you like the design
Yep.
and the measurements,
Yeah.
then what happens?
Right.
Then what happens?
First we start with the tree making,
Mm-hmm.
and after that we do the reinforcing of the tree with the fiberglass material. Then we do webbing on that, and the cantil work we do with the sometimes with the fiberglass material, sometimes with the wooden axe. So after that we start mounting the leather on the saddle. So how it goes. Then we do the stitching process. Then after finishing that, we do the fittings on them. It goes like that.
Okay. What you got there?
This is a saddle gauge.
Yeah.
I can put this on the back of a horse, and I can measure the back of the horse. Then I can put it in the gullet of the saddle, like this saddle here that Ashraf has made, and put that in there. And supposing that was the horse I just measured, and I put that in there like that, well, it just so happens that's a good fit. It's touching there and there and there and there. Now, if it was like that, if the horse was like that, that's an older horse with a higher wither and it dipped back. It's still on 0 here. And if I did that there, you'd see it's hitting the horse there and there, not touching here and not touching there, not touching here, not touching there, but is touching here and there. So that's what we call bridging. It's hitting here and here. So this would saw the horse very quickly here on the wither and back here, because the weight is not being distributed evenly. However, if I measured the horse and it was like that, the weight would be even. The horse would be fine.
So it's easily adjustable.
Yes, because of the tree he makes. I'll bring a tree over and I'll show you.
When I first saw this thing, I thought it was some kind of torture device
Oh, yeah.
because I saw it out of context.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, he was just carrying it. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the great thing with these saddles. It's like super adjustable stuff. You can probably adjust it as per your horse's back, because every horse is different in the world. It's like my horse is going to be much different as compared to your horse. So that's what Colin does, and that's what sets him apart from other saddle makers and other saddle sellers here in America. So that's what he's done. The other thing, what I love about Colin, is he's always experimenting. He's got always new ideas, how you can go for new saddle, how you can go for new experiments, how you can go, it's like he's on a mission to talk to horses. That's what he says. You got to talk to your horse, and he's on a mission to bridge the gap between that, which a lot of other saddlers can't do here. That's what sets him off, really. So as a manufacturer, it's a great honor to be working with him, and yeah, he's great. That's all he's that. He's a great person to work with.
He's one of Ashraf's saddles we've pulled down. You'll see the horn is steel, welded and bolted to steel here to make it strong. And the knee pads have steel in them here. These are the knee pads, which I showed you there, that keep you in. You can see under there, that's a pad, okay? And that keeps you in the saddle, and it's got steel there. The underside of that tree looks much like this. It has steel here, it's welded there, and steel in the arch. Now to adjust this saddle, it's very easy with a wood steel tree, or not easy, you've got to know what you're doing. Supposing this was the horse, I'd put the back on the back of the horse to get that shape, and put where the saddle was, right? Now if I put that in this tree here, like that, you'd see it wouldn't fit. Look at that. The tree is too narrow as it is. However, if I put this tree on a very high withered thoroughbred horse, it would look more like that and more like that. That's what a thoroughbred looks like that. Now if I put that in there, look at that. That would now fit a high withered horse. See? that'd be the shape of the horse. That's the beauty of wood and steel trees. So you would send me with the tracings of that horse, meaning just get a piece of wire and bend it over the withers. I use that wire to duplicate that shape, and then I can use this gauge to shape this gauge to your wires. Then I can put that in the saddle, and I can make that saddle perfectly fit a horse. That's the beauty of wood and steel. Now, we also make saddles that have got solid trees. Now you can mess with solid trees by putting shims in them, building up, making that high density foam or something to make it look like that instead of doing that. However, wood and steel keeps you very close to the horse. And the beauty of a wood and steel tree is you want to be close to a horse all the time. And this is how far you are off a horse with this tree. That far. Maybe with a bit of leather, it's that far. But it's only half an inch. So your center of gravity is way low on the horse. You can feel the horse now. And what's more, he can feel you. If you build this out of big, heavy fiberglass, you're up here. The horse can't feel you. He doesn't know what you're doing unless you use spurs and all that sort of stuff. And which is why Americans, oddly enough, have the world's wickedest spurs, because they've been brought up with a Western saddle that is very heavy, and it's hard to get the horse. The horse requires a lot of training in Western equipment to have it move smoothly. An Aussie saddle, much like a dressage saddle, you are so close to the horse that any movement you make, the horse is going to feel it. And that's the difference. So I love wood steel trees. Very old-fashioned, I might say, because people who produce saddles, this has to be handmade. Well, that takes a lot of money. And that's the problem. So if you want to make an inexpensive saddle, you're a saddle manufacturer, and Asim. So the more you work on that, the less work you do, the better off you are, because you can then sell it for a little less and make more money. Well, that's a story of most of solid tree saddles. But I have another saddle that Ashraf and Asim have developed, and that's the bareback saddle, which I think is the future of saddlery in the future, because this requires somebody with incredible skill and knowledge. I have fit 40,000 horses in my lifetime, and I still make mistakes, which is appalling that I can do that amount of saddle fitting and sometimes not get it right. So how is somebody who has fit maybe 10 saddles in their life going to get it right? I ask myself that question all the time. The chances are very limited. However, with the bareback saddle, you've got a lot more leeway, which is why I think it's the future. Horses get sore backs, whereas Western saddles terribly, all the time. And dressage saddles too, because the dressage saddle doesn't have all of this area of bearing surface. This has got about 500 square inches of bearing surface. A dressage saddle, if you're lucky, has about 150 or 200 square inches. So that means the pressure under a dressage saddle is twice what it is under this saddle. So you have to be, with English saddles and dressage saddles, are going to be very precise fits, which requires a lot of expertise. And like I say, I've been doing this all of my life. I built my first saddle when I was 14, and I still get it wrong. Sometimes. Not very often, but I do. And I'm shocked and appalled that I get it wrong. So here's the bareback saddle, which I think is the future of all saddlery, because it doesn't have to be shaped. it shapes itself to the horse. What a concept. So if you're sitting here, the weight is going to be, first of all, you sit here. Now your weight starts here but goes to each end of the saddle because it's shaped like that. It's going to follow the line of the horse, which is a great thing. I've sold probably I don't know, maybe 1,000 bareback saddles in 10 years since I developed this. Haven't had one single sore back, not one. And so it didn't have to fit the horses. And the way Ashraf has been doing it in Asim is there's actually a tree under it, but it's this tree. What it does, this is a facsimile of what they make. The bearing pressure is still spread out along there. The rider sits here, and look what happens there. It hasn't left either end, so it's still bearing down. The rider then sits back here, and so that's bearing all over there. He gets up to gallop, he or she gets up to gallop. Now the weight's moved from here to there, but it's now dispersed over a greater area in the front, because when you're galloping like this here. That's how you're galloping, not sitting like this. You're galloping. And you're in perfect balance on the horse. Well, that's a story, that's just basically the story of saddling. And this is lined with wool felt under there, just to keep the horse at the back of the horse cool. And that's a bareback saddle. You can put English leathers here, or you can put Western style fenders on it. Doesn't matter. So there you have it. I'm going to bring a horse up here and we're going to put things on the horse and we'll get a look at the horse.
You're going up on the horse, mate.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great.
So we got a wide horse here and a narrow horse there, right? And you can see that by the shapes of the backs, they're totally different. So one saddle is not going to fit both of these horses. Because if I measure this guy's width is like this here, measure his back like that, that's where that gauge is, that's where I put that gauge. I helped design this with Robert Ferrin, who has a patent on it. It's called a Saddle Tech gauge, and it's the best one I know that's ever been made. Robert's an engineer, but also a good horseman, so we worked on this together. But there it is, it's on 0 here and 0 there. You can see this is a fairly straight-backed horse. Now we're going to go over to that horse and look at that one now, which you see is more a thoroughbred type. Let's go and look at this. Oh, you're a good horse, yes. Great. Put on that. That doesn't fit at all. See that? It's banging on there. It's off here. Look how wide this is. Nothing. So it doesn't fit. That's why bareback saddles are amazing, because a bareback saddle will fit this horse and that wide horse, whereas I have to alter the tree to fit this horse here and that horse there of a solid saddle. Not a solid saddle won't fit both of them, but a bareback saddle will. Okay, here. This one thinks he's a mountain goat. He's going to climb up there and jump over the rail, by goodness. Come on, back on that. Back on that. Come on. Thank you. Now, that's a wide round horse. It's touching there, touching in the center, and touching here. Wonderful. I can cinch that up and it'll be good on that horse. Now I can put it on this narrow horse over here. Let's come and have a look now. Put that on there. Now, when I first put it on, it's touching the top of the wither. However, when I cinch it up, there's the big cinch ring under there. When I cinch that up and pull it down, look what happens to the saddle. See that? So it's now clearing the wither. And the tree bends that way. So when the rider's sitting in it, look what happens. It comes up off the wither and displaces the weight evenly all the way along there. This is why I feel the bareback saddle is the future of all saddlery, because it doesn't need an expert to adjust it. It doesn't need adjusting. It adjusts to whatever horse you put it on. You can see put on that horse which is wide, this horse which is narrow, and it'll still work. Plate that's under the bareback saddle, similar. So it doesn't matter what shape with the back of the horse it's going to fit. Western saddles are great too, but they have to be fit, especially if they're solid trees. Well, I got to fit. I put a wood steel tree on that one and a wood steel tree on this one, and it fit one of them but didn't fit the other. So I have to adjust that too. So this is an English leather, as you can see, and that's my Australian stirrup, which I designed. This is an Australian safety stirrup which Asim makes it for me, and it takes weight like this, and it drops your heel because there's a 5-degree slope down here. If you take pressure with your foot, your heel drops. And having a dropped heel riding a horse gives you more balance. That's why they say ride with your heels down.
Yeah,
right?
To a new rider, it's a little bit counterintuitive, right?
Yes, because we have our feet on the ground and we want to take even pressure on our feet. That's our natural thing to do. So you're asking people to do something unnatural here, just use the front of their foot and no heel. That's a hard thing to do until you figure it out. So here's a stirrup, and we just put it on this. It's got big stirrup rings there, and we put this little sleeve on here to just make it more user friendly. And put the buckle to the inside, and that goes through that loop there, down here, do up this deal there, that's how it goes. Okay? And slide that over the buckle just to give it a nice look. And put that little thing back up in there, which also gives it a nice look. So there we go. There's my stirrup leather. I sit in the saddle. And there it is. There it is, I'm going down a hill. Smoking down the hill. Oh, this hot. And if I'm getting along, I'm just walking along, I have it back there. If I'm galloping, that's where I am now. I've got my foot back there, I'm galloping. I'm up on the horse's neck. My head is up here. The head's the heaviest limb you have. So you use that head like a weight balance. If you're galloping him, you take weight in the front. That loosens up his rear end, which is where the engine is. He can dig in and drive you instead of dragging you. Western saddles, you can't do that. You've got to sit back here. You try and get him forward and it kills your knees, kills everything, because it's not made for it. But this way you can go down a hill like that, or you can just ride along like that, and you're in perfect balance on the horse. This bareback saddle is unbelievable because I can go from that high-witted horse to this round horse, and I can still have this saddle, one saddle. I don't need a saddle like that that's working on that horse. It doesn't work on that one. I have to get another saddle to shape that to fit that horse. So I need two saddles. Well, I'm not independently wealthy, so there you go. A master saddle maker, Asim is a master saddle maker. Wasn't born when I started, but
Yeah.
my goodness, he knows a lot now.
Yeah.
And how long have you known each
I
other?
taught his dad,
Yeah.
and his dad taught him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, as a manufacturer, what I love about making stuff for him. It's like his tack and his saddles are super functional. So you don't have, you can see the buckles here. They're wide enough, quick, easy in action. You can do that. So that's one thing. So Mr. Colin, what do you think? I mean, you probably get this question a lot of times. Why is this bareback saddle that you designed is different from other bareback saddles here in America?
Because the bareback saddle traditionally
Yeah.
didn't have this plate.
All
I'm
right.
the one who put this plate in it.
Uh-huh.
The bareback saddle without this plate, all the pressure goes there,
Yeah.
under your backside. I weigh 180 pounds. If I have nothing between my backside and the horse, all of my weight, 180 pounds, is in an area about that big on the back of the horse.
Oh yeah. That's
Put 180 pounds into that,
Uh-huh.
and you've got about 4 pounds per square inch. That's a punch in the jaw. That's very heavy.
Yeah, it is.
No, but if you spread it out, which this does, makes it 3 times a greater distance, you
Oh yeah.
cut by 1/3 the bearing weight on the horse.
All right.
And we all want to make the horse more comfortable doing his job for us. For some reason, I don't know why, the horse has agreed to be our servant. I don't know why. Because we've sure treated him badly over 5,000 years. But not recently. Now is the age of the horse where the horse can be calm and beautiful like this, and they get well cared for and they get loved. That's new.
Yeah.
We don't beat them up anymore. That's old news. And why did people beat them up in the first place? I think because they were scared of them. So they wanted to show the horse how tough they were by beating them. But that doesn't show the horse how tough you are.
Oh yeah.
If you go up and rub their forehead and say, "Oh, nice horse, you're a nice horse," that makes much more impact than
Oh
beating
yeah, it
them up.
does. Yeah.
Now, if you're galloping along, yes, of course, put a little stick on there, yeah. Oh, you want to go faster. But if you're not beating the horse with that, that's an indicator. It's like a little accelerator. That's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing which I love about these barebacks is like the material he's chosen for them. You've got like beautiful sheepskin down here, and you've got like great cowhide leather here, and all hardware is probably brass and stainless steel. So that's a good thing. And you've got this beautiful, beautiful handle down here. So yeah, I'm pretty happy that you're just choosing the best out of the material here.
Yeah. And I'll show you how we rig these up next time. That's good questions, right?
Originally known as the Monster Master. I mean, as a manufacturer, I just love it. You got this, like Colin said, you got like this beautiful, beautiful American leather, and the knee pads, which he calls it the Mickey Mouse ears, and we've got the all solid brass hardware here. Now, if you notice here, this is a screw down here, which can be opened up to the saddle and can be adjusted to it. Now, the other good thing about his saddle as compared to the other guys, probably Western and stuff, you see these panels down here? These are flared panels. So that doesn't hurt your horses, the shoulder bone. So it's like a flare on it. So that what sets it apart as a saddle.
That's great. The rig's up. This is the off side. We don't talk about left side or right side of saddle because it gets confusing. If I'm standing in front here of the horse, that's the left side. If I'm standing here, it's the right side. It also happens with a horse, we stand all around the damn thing. So this way, this is the off side. It's not the side you mount on. That's why we call it the off side. So the off side has a big buckle on the girth like that. And the cinching system goes through here, like that through here. Then there's a big buckle up under there. Goes through the buckle. You got to work it a little bit. Not the type of thing you'd do cinching up while you're going to rob a bank. You'd probably do this a little faster then, wouldn't you? But however, we're not robbing banks today. So that's how we go there.
Maybe tomorrow.
Oh yeah. I got a fast horse. And that goes through there like that, the top stop, and that goes through the bottom of it. And now what we have is a winch going here. Look at this. I pull here, and then I can pull on that. See? I can make this tighter here, and I can loosen that up, and I can make that. I can pull this one tight, and then I got that going there like that, and that pulls through there. And the pull on that locks it in place. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, if I want that to be, this to be more even, I would loosen that and adjust it like that. Now I get equal pull, see?
Mm-hmm.
Very simple to do.
Yeah.
And that goes down there. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
No big deal. Now on the other side, turn this saddle around so we've got the sun on it nicely. On the other side we've got this marvellous tackleberry system, which has been around for about 100 years, invented by an American who called himself Mr. Tackleberry. I think that was his real name. So the tackleberry lacing, he developed it in America and ran out of the country for probably doing something wrong anyhow, but he ran out of the country and took it to Australia, where the Australians really took to that tackleberry buckle, because being inherently lazy, it was the easy way to cinch up the horse. You didn't have to tie a big knot. That drilled a hole in your leg. And then we go through the top slot there, you come up under here, find that big ring, slide it through there, that goes down here like that, and that goes through the bottom slot. Very simple. Now we get the end of the girth, bring it around here, we've got the horse side cinched, secured, and that goes there like that. Hooks on that hook, that lip. See that lip? Hooks on there. So now you're just going to pull this, get tension, pull this, get tension, pull this, get tension, and you can make this very tight on the horse. And you are not strong enough to over cinch a horse, contrary to popular belief. There's nothing more dangerous to the horse than a loose cinch. Loose cinch means the saddle's going to roll, you fall off, horse runs crazy, goes through a barbed wire fence, flips over, falls on a freeway, and 9 people die. It might have been better to cinch the saddle. That's my view. There you go. It's a great privilege to talk to the people who have made the finest Australian stock saddles made in the world today.
It's an honor. It's an honor working for you, sir.
Sadly, young Australians haven't taken to saddle making, and the old guys are all like me. They're old and fussy, and there's no young people coming on to take their role. But fortunately, there are people in India who are more than eager to build saddles, and they learn from everywhere. And it's been a great privilege to pass on this knowledge.
Oh yeah, it is.
Because next week I'll be dead, probably. So I'm glad I told
Oh
somebody.
no.
If I keep riding like crazy, I will be. I've only had 9 concussions.
9?
There you go. I think it's the future of saddlery, really. It's still a difficult sell because it doesn't have a horn.
Right.
It can't have a horn because there's no substance.
Right.
So but Americans are getting out of horns too.
Yeah, that's right.
The Australian saddle started as a dressage saddle, and still today they haven't put horns on dressage saddles, have they? But
Okay.
they put them on Australian saddles, which
That's
are
true.
hybrids of the dressage saddle.
Yeah.
So everything has its place. And I got nothing against horns. I just think we don't use them in Australia because we like to chase our cattle until they get exhausted. And that's about a 2-mile flat gallop, which is always fun. And herd them up, put 100 of them in a big log pen, and that's way quicker than roping one here, tying it to your horn, being dragged through the bush, knock down whatever you're going to knock down, and survive it maybe. We just have never got behind roping cattle because it's very dangerous. Now it's a wonderful sport to watch in rodeo. I think that's good, but you know, it's very, very dangerous. Roping in the wild, 400 miles from a hospital, not a good idea. I remember when I was a kid and I come from a cattle property in Australia. When I was a kid, there was a guy came from Texas, and he had his big Western saddle with him, and I was only about 10 or 12 years old, and all us kids gathered around. We're going to see this man from Texas with his real Texas saddle, and we were just enamored with this whole idea. Because we had seen Hopalong Cassidy and all those old Western movies, and we thought, yeah, he's a real Hopalong Cassidy, the real person is coming out. And he had this saddle, big Western saddle, and there was a little country pub there, and all the locals, there's half a dozen of them, all drinking beer and watching this American saddle up one of our Brumbies, you know. He puts the saddle on the horse, and everybody standing back and says, "Oh, look at that! That's something." And he gets on it, and the horse started bucking and galloping and completely out of control. And he took down about all trees that were a bit smaller than that. They got all knocked down. So it was a terrible crash. And I remember as a kid watching these guys, and there's about 8 of them standing around and drinking their beer, and I say, I can see why that's a big sport in rodeo. That's exciting, isn't it?
It is great, yeah.
So we don't rope cattle. We just run them into the ground and grab them by the tail, throw them over, and jump on top of them. Strap their back legs. We've got these ball belts, we call them. Strap their back legs and their front legs, and pull out a castration knife, get the ball sack, pop, pop. That's it. Done. We got a horn saw. Cut off the horns. That takes 3 minutes, start to finish. And he gets up and he's pretty pissed off. You got one angry bull, but he's got no horns. So you just get behind your horse, and the horse takes a bit of a romp and dump it, and it's not a big deal. That's the way it's done there. But now, of course, they use helicopters, and it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier moving cattle now.
Yeah, that's right.
In the old days it wasn't. You ran them all hills. But still, they got a big mountains like these. They got to get up there on the horse and bring the cattle down. The cattle have got used to the idea that they can be up there, the chopper can come, and they'll say, well, we don't care about that, do we? No. But they get down the flat, the chopper can come right in on top of it and run them. You know, and they can say, well, we can stay here. And you know, the chopper gets control.
So, Mr. Collins, since we're talking about riding, different types of riding, so as a personal question, I mean, what is the difference you feel like? Is it different to ride there in Australia or riding back in the USA, like as compared to the camp drafting or the rodeo stuff? What do you feel like that? I mean, is it different that much?
Yeah, there is difference. There is a difference to it. The Americans, well, they have a big Western saddle to start with. That's their traditional saddle, and it's a wonderful saddle for roping off, but I just don't see how you can feel anything in it. So they don't have camp drafting because you can't get close enough to it. They have cutting, but cutting, you're actually hanging onto the horn. Yeah. And you're training the horse to go this way and that way. Training the horse is trained to cut. And that's a good way to do it, but we don't train horses to cut like that. Yeah. Rather we drive them. So camp drafting, you gallop with the horse, and you've got to turn them around a barrel up there. So you gallop with the horse, and when you get approaching the barrel, you come out a bit, and bang that horse in the neck and spin them around.
Oh yeah.
and then get on the inside and haze them because the bullock is trying to get back to the mob back there, so you can spin them round. But we do impact,
All right.
which is just from the bush.
All right.
That's the way they still do it in the bush. And camp drafting is just a replica of what they do in the bush, which is got to get the cattle, got to catch them, and they're feral. They're not like a bunch of cattle out there in that paddock that see people every day. Hello people, how are you? we're wild bulls out here, okay? You don't get that. You go out there and you got to track them, actually track them, and then you get the droppings will get fresh, and then you go, oh, they're getting close to them. Then you get downwind, and that lead bull's going to get his head up. Hop, there's somebody coming. That's when you hit it and cut him off from the mob.
All right.
And control him. If you can control the lead bull, you can control the mob. Thereby hangs the story, controlling the lead bull. Because he just might get ticked off at being chased like that and turn around and chase you. It's a good idea if you got some horse left.
So, listening after so many experiences of yours, so can you tell me what was the longest time you did on this saddle, the one you designed on a horseback? I mean, how long?
100 miles.
Already.
Yeah, I did the Tevis Cup. I did the Race of Champions. That was in the stock saddles. The one I got you designed way back in the beginning with the low knee pads. And I called it an endurance saddle.
Oh yeah.
But it had panels underneath it, which made a big breakthrough. And pretty soon everybody was using panels, fleece panels instead of stuffed panels. Because the fleece panel gives you more bearing surface, lower pounds per square inch. So, but distance is how long you can go. What's interesting about Saddlery is the world today is shaped like it is and owned by who owns it, because 100 years ago all of those countries were being conquered by people who had saddles. And they were conquering people who didn't have saddles. Every country in the world was conquered because it didn't have a saddle 100 years ago. And the people who had saddles beat everybody. Attila the Hun was the first person to come up with a saddle. And he was being thrashed by the Romans in the southern steppes of Russia. And he was just being annihilated. Until one day he was in Eastern Europe, and he was on the banks of the Danube, and he thought to himself, I've got to change things. I need something that will go the distance. Instead of the Romans had bareback pads, but they had no plates in them, nothing like that. They're just bareback pads. And the Huns were riding bareback too, so everybody got exhausted. The horses got exhausted together because there was no saddle. So the Huns get off their saddle because they've got no more horse left. The horses can't bear a weight anymore. And they get their swords and ready to fight the Romans. And the Romans were masters with that short sword. They just kill them, they butcher them, because they're much more superior swordsmen. So Attila got this idea one day after losing 30,000 men, and he was on the banks of the Danube and very depressed. And he thought, well, we're going to find a different way to do this. So he invented the first saddle for use in a wide term. So happens the Sarmatian Roman warriors in the year 300 BC, we're talking Attila, which is 400 AD. That's 600-700 years earlier, the Sarmatian Roman warriors, they had a saddle. But again, it didn't have a bearing surface for the horse. Attila came up with that. And once he got a saddle that a horse could tolerate longer than 3 days, what did he do? He just baited the Romans. They'd chase him for 3 days. He'd still have a horse because he had saddle. So they're off their horse with their swords. Where's the Huns? Where's the Huns? No Huns. They're still going. They just circle around on the mountainside, rain down arrows. They never fought another Roman toe to toe ever. But they never lost another war with the Romans ever because they had a saddle. and the Romans had they saw this, and to be honest about it, the Huns had already known about a saddle was being used in China before then. It had been around for 400 years in China, but they only used it as a mounting aid. Oddly enough, they just lower the stirrup down and put their foot and get on the saddle. They'd lift up that stirrup and put over like that.
All right.
So they never occurred to the Chinese to use it as an actual saddle. Now Attila could stand in his stirrups like this with arrows,
Yes.
and he could do he could do a retreat while killing people trying to get him. He'd just fire. They'd meet a wall of arrows. So he was very, very good with that saddle. And oddly enough, by the time the Romans couldn't build a saddle, they couldn't make a saddle because they were very bureaucratic. They had a very complicated system of government, and nobody did anything. The Caesars of the time, they made all the rules, and every rule was followed to the nth degree, and they were very bureaucratic, and so nobody could say, well, that doesn't work, we're going to do a saddle. Couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You'd have to be approved by government, by this and by that. So it just didn't work. So Attila ended up owning everything as much as he could until he met his demise in bed with a couple of beautiful ones. So there you go, heart attack.
All right. So.
This is my hero.
Oh, yes. All right. So since we're talking about a lot of history and stuff, I'm sure that viewers and me as a teen as well, I want to know what made you, Mr. Colin Dangaard, who was working in Hollywood, working with a lot of movie stars, came into saddles.
Well, good question, and I'll tell you the answer. I was working with movie stars, as I told you, and I heard about this movie, The Man from Snowy River.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
legendary.
It's a legendary movie, and I thought, well, somebody, Hollywood producer, had asked me if I wanted to go to Australia to cover a horse movie. And I said, a horse movie? Australia? Yeah, what? He said, well, it's The Man from Snowy River. And as a kid, I remember reading about the poetry that was attached to The Man from Snowy River. It was a classic poem in Australia, and that's where the poem, they made a movie of that poem, really.
All right.
And I thought, yeah, well, I want to go back to Australia and see my parents and my brothers and sisters and all that stuff. And so I said, yeah, I'll go down. So they flew me on the set of The Man from Snowy River, and I thought, well, I'll be here for about a couple of hours, and I'll get on a plane and go north. This horse movie doesn't interest me. And the director said to me, he says, Colin, he says, I want you to see what we did yesterday.
All right.
And he showed me a close-up of an Australian stock saddle. I said, that's an Australian stock saddle. He says, of course it is. I said, you're going to show that? What do you mean we're going to show it? It's all about that saddle. I said, really? He says, yeah. And I had built one when I was 14 years old, like that, as a kid. My dad wouldn't buy me a saddle, so I built it myself. It was a piece of crap, but it kind of worked. So I said, wow. I said, interesting. Right then, I made a decision. While I'm still seeing the image of that saddle there,
All right.
I made a decision. I said, I'm going to find the biggest maker of Australian saddles in Australia and buy a bunch of them. I was making plenty of money in Hollywood, and I'm doing good.
Oh yeah.
So I go up to Sid Hill and Sons,
Oh yeah.
and I walk in the door, and I'd already been on television in Australia. I had interviewing movie stars, etc.
Oh yeah.
And Len Hill saw me, and he says, "Oh, you're that guy on TV." He said, "Are we on television?" I says, "No, I've come to buy saddles." And he looked a bit depressed, and he says, "Really?"
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah. What do you want? How many?" He said, "Do you want to buy one or two?"
Yeah.
I said, "No, I want to start with about a dozen.
All right.
Then we're going to order them by the 100. He says, "You're out of your mind." He says, "You are crazy. You sound crazy on television." He says, "You are crazy." So I said, "Yeah, well." And I got the saddles. I invested in buying 10 saddles and waited till The Man from Snowy River was about to come out. Then I took out ads said, "Ride like the man from Snowy River."
Oh yeah.
Movie came out, it was a big hit. I immediately sold out of saddles, but I had Hill already set up to make another 50 and then another 100. And Len Hill called me and he says, "Colin," he says, "this is ridiculous. We can't make all these saddles." I says, "Yeah, I'm noticing that." I says, you're dragging the chain here.
Yeah.
How am I going to do anything? I can't sell them if you don't make them. And then I thought, wait a minute. India. That's I'm going to go.
Oh.
They'll make me saddles. I'll just send one over there.
Oh yeah.
So I shipped one over here and your dad came. And he says, "Yeah, we can make that saddle." And I says, "Good." He said, "How many do you want?" And I says, "Well, start with about 10.
Oh yeah.
So he sent me one. It was pretty bad. So I sent it back and told him everything that was wrong with it. And he sent me another one that was better. I said, "Yeah, make me correct all these things and then make me 10. And that was the beginning of a big evolution in America, because now saddles could be made in large numbers. And pretty soon I was ordering 100 at a time from my dad.
Oh yeah.
And he wasn't ordering anything anymore from Australia.
Oh yeah.
And Hill basically went out of business, and they couldn't make it. And now, ironically, the strangest thing is that there are very, very few young saddle makers in Australia, whereas Kanpur, where you're from, is full of young people making saddles. They're busy making saddles, and they're like 12 years old. They're into it. Wow. Yeah. You know, so they're very, very industrious people, and very intelligent, and very well educated, and you have about 10 times more education than I have.
Oh, no, it's not that bad. He's being modest. Yeah. So that's how we know why he's called as the man who bring the Australian saddles to the USA. All right, so now we know that. Okay. So since we're talking about the legendary movie, The Man from the Snowy River, and you must be remember that scene when the hero just came down to the cliff, chased by the other man. And so, just want to know, I'm so eager. Have you ever tried that? He said no.
Steeper hill.
Please say no to me.
Steeper than that. No, I've done steeper than that.
Oh boy.
Up here, look at those hills.
Oh yeah.
They got cliffs on them. I do that.
Take those hills.
I do that twice a week. I'm saddle up Jimmy on Wednesday morning, so probably won't be here. But there's drop-offs down there. More wild than that.
Bloody hell.
And when they did that scene, they prepared. They trained the horse for it.
Yep.
And they took away stuff that the horse could hit.
Yep.
They prepared the ground.
Yeah.
I'm doing stuff steeper than that over there, with no preparations. It's just rocks smoking down.
Yeah.
But I'm in these saddles, and I have never come out of an Australian saddle ever in my entire life. And I've been riding since I was a kid, and I've just never come out of it. Now I've come out of English saddles probably 60 times, because I steeplechase and do high jumps at high speed. Well, of course you're going to come out. You know, the horse stops, boom, you go over. That's it. Horse stops with this saddle, that grabs you and throws you back in the seat.
Oh yeah.
Great idea.
It does, yeah.
It's really, the Australian saddle is the world's greatest cheating saddle, because you can cheat death with it. I like that.
Yeah.
You're not taking a hell of a risk.
The knee pads are the boom for that.
Yeah, boom. You'll hit that. I've never come out of these. I've crashed horses many times.
Oh yeah.
Probably 40, 50 times, I don't know. But I crashed the horse gets down, you step off. That was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. Are you okay, mate? Get up. Oh yeah, he's right. Okay. Horses are very good at crashing. They rarely hurt themselves. Whereas we hurt ourselves all the time, because we only have 2 legs, they have 4. And they hit the ground with a skilled passion. When a foal is born, the mother's pushing it around and making it fall over and letting it roll, and the horses get used to rolling. whereas we don't get used to rolling much at all.
Yeah.
You know, fell out of your pram as a kid, you broke your neck or something. You know, we were not trained to tuck and roll as the horses are. And so that's it. But what the Australian saddle has done, the American population is getting older.
Yeah.
They need security. They still want the adventure, but they realise they don't ride as well as they used to.
All right.
They're not as quick, they're not as well balanced as they used to be, but they still want to do adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get in this saddle and do what you want. You're going to be doing something pretty weird to fall out of this saddle. If the saddle fits you, if it's big and you're small, well, of course you're fine. But if it fits you and you're right here, and the backside is there, it's very hard to fall out of. Like I say, I've never fallen out of one. I've crashed many times. But that's a crash. You step off. You know, now we come out English saddles regularly.
Yeah.
Because you're doing high jumps and you're going flat out, and if the horse does that, you're off. I don't care how well you ride. You're off. Everybody, the harder you ride in an English saddle, the more dangerous it is. And I was a executive of the West Hills Hunt Club for many years, and we'd go up through these hills chasing coyotes, jumping fences, and there'd be 40 of us out there on Saturday, on any given Saturday. 3 people would go to hospital, 5 others would be, should have gone to hospital. There'd be 10 crashes.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be normal. People falling out, just falling out of the saddle. And I've fallen out of them many times because you just do. There's nothing to hold you in, especially if you ride with aggression.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's what you do.
I'm a very aggressive rider.
That's what I do. I can tell that.
But to be frank, I cheat. I train in that. Then I get in an English saddle, but I've been training in that.
Yeah.
And I forget I'm not in it. And then I have to be really, really good. Then I forget I'm not in it. But I train in these. I love it. And I'll show you my saddle. We're going to put it on the horse. See how nicely that fits the horse? Touching there, touching there, touching under there. And that's a round horse.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we're going to put the same saddle on that horse over there, high withered horse. Let's see how it goes on that. With the horse? I'm asking the horse, how's this for you? Is this any problem? No, you don't care.
It's fine.
It's fine. Now, if it wasn't fine, he'd let me know.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting on him, he'll really let you know, but I know he's not bothered with that. Now I'll put this saddle on that horse over there. I'm going to show you how we can make this saddle fit anything. Now it fits this horse very well because it's more a round horse, but when I put it on that horse, I use a heavy pad because then I don't have to alter this. I use a heavy felt pad about that thick, and then I don't have to change this because I've built up the withers on that high withered horse with padding. But see, there it is on that horse.
Yeah.
Fits halfway okay. It's not hitting the top of that, not hitting the bottom of this. It's clearer, but only by about that much. I'd want another pad on it for this horse. But the saddle's workable. The saddle's workable when it's sitting level. You can see that it's sitting level, see? See that it's sitting level? So it's workable. Just needs more padding because the withers on this horse are quite high. But still it's rideable. And especially with a thicker pad, it's real rideable. In fact, I use this saddle on this horse with a pad about that. and thanks for joining me. I'm Colin Dangaard, and we've been talking about making saddles by Ashraf and Asim, his nephew. And they've come all the way from Kanpur, India, to reveal how they make these extraordinary saddles in a way that I can afford to sell them. Everybody can make anything, but can you afford to sell it? They make it possible for me to sell you a saddle at a very reasonable price, and I can make my modest profit. There you go.